the legislative branch, the executive branch, and the judicial branch. Reading on pages 257, 258, and 260. The federal government is divided into 3 separate branches, each with its own responsibilities and powers. This separation of powers is designed to balance each branch against the others. It keeps any single branch from becoming too powerful. The legislative branch, or Congress, makes the nation's laws. Members of Congress are the human connection between the citizen and government, noted one member. Article 1 divides Congress into the House of Representatives and the Senate. Turn the page. With 435 members, the House of Representatives is the larger of the 2 houses of Congress. The U.S. Census, a population count taken every 10 years, decides the number of representatives for each state. To keep each state's total current, Congress uses apportionment or planned distribution of representatives. Under this system, no state can gain a representative unless another state loses one. House members represent a particular district of voters in a state. House members must be at least 25 years old, have been a U.S. citizen for 7 or more years, and be residents of the state in which they are elected. House members serve 2-year terms. The Senate is made up of 2 representatives called senators from each state. Senators represent the interests of their entire state. They must be at least 30 years old and have been U.S. citizens for 9 or more years. Senators serve 6-year terms and must be residents of the state they represent. A senator who has served longer in the states is the state's senior senator. No law limits the number of times someone may be elected to either house of Congress. The political party that has the most members in each house of Congress is called the majority party. The party with fewer members is the minority party. The leader of the House of Representatives is the Speaker of the House. House members select the Speaker, who is usually from the majority party. The Vice President of the United States serves as the President of the Senate. The Vice President does not join in Senate debates, but can cast a vote to break a tie. When the Vice President is absent, the President pro tempore leads the Senate. Congress begins its regular session or meeting each year in the first week of January. Each House of Congress carries out most of its work in committees that specialize in certain types of bills or proposed laws. For example, all bills about taxes begin in the House Ways and Means Committee. The Executive Branch. Article 2 of the Constitution specifies the powers of the executive branch. This branch reinforces the laws that Congress passes. The President, as head of the executive branch, is the most powerful elected leader in the country. To become president, one must be a native-born U.S. citizen, at least 35 years old, and have been a U.S. resident for at least 14 years. The requirements are the same for the vice president. Thus far, all U.S. presidents have been white men. In more recent elections, candidates for the nation's highest office have been more diverse. African Americans such as Jesse Jackson and Alan Keyes have campaigned for nomination. In 1984, Geraldine Ferraro ran as the Democratic nominee for vice president. She was the first female candidate for a major political party. In 2000, Democrat Joseph Lieberman became the first Jewish nominee for vice president. Every 4 years, Americans elect a president and vice president. Franklin D. Roosevelt, who won 4 presidential elections, was the only president to serve more than 2 terms. Later, the 22nd Amendment limited presidents to 2 terms. If the president dies, resigns, or is removed from office, the vice president becomes president. The House of Representatives can impeach or vote to bring charges of treason, bribery, or other high crimes, and misdemeanors against a president. The Senate tries all impeachment cases. If a president is found guilty, Congress can remove him or her from office. In 1868, Andrew Johnson became the first president to be impeached. President Bill Clinton was impeached in 1998. In each case, the Senate tried the president and found him not guilty. In 1974, President Richard Nixon resigned to avoid possible impeachment. Turn to page 260. The Judicial Branch. The third branch of the government is the judicial branch. This branch is made up of a system of federal courts headed by the U.S. Supreme Court. Article 3 of the Constitution outlines the court's duties. As an implied part of these duties, a federal court can strike down a state or federal law. However, a court can only do this if it finds a law unconstitutional. If Congress desires, it can propose an amendment to the Constitution that would make the law constitutional. The President makes all appointments to federal courts. These judges receive the appointment for life to ensure that they will not be influenced by political parties. The lower courts in the federal system are divided according to the types of cases over which they have jurisdiction or authority. Each state has at least one district court to handle federal cases. States with higher populations often have more than one district court. Today, there are 94 U.S. district courts and 13 courts of appeals that review lower court decisions. At times, someone convicted of a crime believes that the original trial was unfair. That person can appeal his or her case to the higher court. Each of these courts of appeals has a panel of judges who decide whether the lower court tried the original case properly. If the judges uphold or accept the lower court's decision, then the case's original outcome stands. If not, the case may go back to the lower court for a new trial.